It started with the sound of moving boxes scraping against concrete, a sharp, careless sound that carried across the quiet morning street. Clara looked up from her kitchen window, fingers wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long since gone cold. The small suburban neighborhood she'd called home for 7 years rarely saw change. The same mailman, the same barking dog 2 houses down, the same routine she both relied on and resented. Now, across the street, a new car was parked. Dusty blue, with its trunk open and the back seat crammed full of half-taped boxes. A woman stood there, tugging a suitcase that looked heavier than she was. Clara tilted her head slightly. She didn't mean to stare, but something about the new neighbor, her calm persistence, the way she brushed a strand of hair behind her ear with her wrist, made it hard to look away. The woman was tall, maybe in her early 30s, wearing a loose white shirt rolled at the sleeves, jeans faded at the knees. She had the kind of stillness that didn't look lonely, but deliberate, as if she'd chosen it. By the time Clara realized she'd been watching for too long, the woman looked up, straight at her. Clara froze. A flicker of recognition? No, just surprise. And then the woman smiled, small, polite, but warm enough to make Clara's chest tighten. The next day, Clara found herself outside, trimming hedges that didn't need trimming. Her life had become a collection of excuses, reasons to avoid thinking about her divorce, her half-finished writing project, her quiet dinners eaten in front of the TV. Across the street, the new neighbor was arranging small potted plants along her porch. Clara hesitated, shears in hand. She'd never been good at introducing herself, but the silence felt like pressure. She crossed the road. "Hi," she called softly. "I'm Clara. I live right there." The woman turned, her face open, kind. "I'm Emma. Sorry if the moving truck made a mess of your view." Clara laughed lightly. "It's fine. Honestly, you're the most exciting thing that's happened here in a year." Emma smiled again, and this time it wasn't polite. It was amused, almost teasing. "Then I guess I have a lot to live up to." They talked for a while, about the neighborhood, the noisy dog, the way the evenings smelled of wet grass. Emma had moved here for a new start, she said vaguely. Something about needing quiet. Clara didn't pry. She understood what that meant without words. Before leaving, Emma touched Clara's arm lightly. "It's nice to meet someone friendly on my first day." The warmth of her fingers lingered longer than it should have. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed often, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. Emma would find excuses to wave from her porch. Clara would bring over muffins she didn't actually bake. Their conversations grew softer, longer, about books, about the strange comfort of solitude, about how time slowed down when it rained. One evening, after the sky turned lavender, Emma asked, "Do you ever get tired of the quiet?" Clara thought about it. "Sometimes," she said, "but I think what I'm really tired of is pretending I like it." That made Emma smile, faint and knowing. "I like that," she murmured. The air between them shifted, unspoken but undeniable, that kind of pull that doesn't demand, just exists. Clara started noticing small things. Emma's handwriting on a mailbox note, looping, elegant, the way she hummed while carrying groceries, the faint citrus scent she left behind when she stood too close. And when she laughed, really laughed, Clara felt something inside her ease, something she hadn't realized had been clenched for years. But she told herself not to read into it. Emma was kind, maybe lonely. That didn't mean anything. Until one Friday evening. Clara was walking home from the market when she saw Emma sitting on her porch, barefoot, legs crossed, wine glass in hand. The porch light framed her in gold. "Rough day?" Clara asked as she walked up. "You could say that. Want to join me?" They shared the bottle. One glass turned into 2, then 3. They talked about old dreams that never happened. Emma confessed she used to paint but hadn't touched a brush in years. Clara admitted she still called herself a writer but hadn't written a word in months. There was silence, the comfortable kind. Then Emma said quietly, "You look like someone who's always half somewhere else." Clara turned to her. "And you look like someone who left somewhere without saying goodbye." Their eyes met, for a heartbeat too long. Clara's pulse fluttered. She could have sworn Emma leaned closer for a moment, but then she looked away, smiling faintly, as if catching herself mid-thought. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She replayed every word, every look, every pause. She tried to tell herself it was nothing, just a connection, just friendship. But her heart didn't listen. She dreamed of rain tapping softly on Emma's porch, of hands brushing accidentally, of warmth in the quiet. The next morning, Clara found a small note slipped under her door. "Thanks for last night. I haven't laughed like that in a long time. ... E." It was simple, harmless, but Clara traced the ink like it meant something. And maybe it did, because when she looked outside, Emma was already on her porch, waiting. And this time, Clara didn't hesitate. She walked across the street, heart unsteady, but open. Something was beginning, something fragile, something real.
The days after that note unfolded like a soft ache, the kind that doesn't hurt, but lingers. Clara and Emma fell into a rhythm that neither of them spoke about, but both understood. Morning waves across the street, evening conversations that stretched long after sunset, quiet cups of tea shared on the porch where words felt unnecessary. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something dangerously close. Clara had begun writing again. She didn't tell Emma, but her new short story started with a woman watching her neighbor move in. Each time her pen touched the page, she thought of Emma's laugh, her silences, the way she tilted her head when she listened. One afternoon, as Clara sat by her window, she caught sight of Emma in the garden, hair tied loosely, sleeves rolled up, dirt on her hands. There was something breathtaking about the simplicity of it. Emma looked up, caught Clara watching, and grinned. Clara raised her coffee cup in mock salute. Emma held up a trowel like a sword. They both laughed silently across the street. That evening, Emma knocked on Clara's door. "I made too much dinner," she said, holding up a casserole dish that smelled like rosemary and lemon. "Come help me fix my mistake." Clara hesitated, not out of reluctance, but fear. The kind of fear that comes when something starts to feel real. But she stepped aside. Inside, the house smelled warm, lived in. Books stacked on the table, soft jazz playing somewhere in the background. Emma poured wine, set plates, and joked about how she never quite learned how to cook for one. When Clara laughed, Emma's eyes softened. "You should laugh more often," she said quietly. Clara looked up, startled. "Why?" "Because it makes you look alive," Emma said simply. It shouldn't have hit as deeply as it did, but it did. Later that night, the rain started. A light drizzle that turned the world silver. They stood by the window, glasses half empty, the air thick with something unsaid. "Do you ever think," Emma said softly, "that maybe we meet people at the wrong time, but for the right reasons?" Clara turned to her. "What do you mean?" Emma shrugged. "I don't know. Just sometimes I think people show up to remind us of something we lost in ourselves." Clara's chest tightened. "And what did I remind you of?" Emma met her eyes, steady, vulnerable. "That I can still feel something." The world seemed to stop. The rain softened to a hush. But before Clara could say anything, Emma stepped back, breaking the moment. You should probably head home. It's late. Her voice was calm, but her eyes told another story. Clara walked home through the rain, pulse thrumming, unsure whether she wanted to cry or laugh. That night, she wrote until her hand cramped. Words poured out of her, not about Emma, not exactly, but about the feeling of almost touching something beautiful and not knowing if she was allowed to hold it. For a few days, there was distance. Emma waved less, her porch light stayed off. Clara told herself not to care, to respect the space, to not make it into something it wasn't. But every quiet evening felt heavier without her. Then, on the fourth night, there was a knock on her door. Emma stood there, drenched from the rain. No umbrella, no jacket, just trembling hands and eyes that looked haunted. "I'm sorry," she said, voice breaking. "I don't know what I'm doing. Clara stepped forward. "Hey, it's okay." Emma shook her head. "No, it's not. I thought I was fine being alone. I thought quiet was what I needed. But every time I hear you laugh or see your light on across the street, it's like something wakes up in me." Clara swallowed. "Then why are you sorry?" "Because I don't want to ruin what's good, and I always ruin things when I start to care." Clara reached out, hesitated for a fraction of a second, then brushed Emma's soaked sleeve. "You haven't ruined anything." For a long moment, they just stood there, rain pooling at Emma's feet, the world outside muffled by the storm. Then, Emma took a breath that sounded like surrender. "Can I just stay here for a while?" Clara nodded. "You don't even have to ask." They didn't talk much after that. Emma changed into an old sweater of Clara's, curled up on the couch with a blanket. Clara made tea. The storm outside roared, but inside, the silence felt alive. When Emma finally fell asleep, her head resting lightly on Clara's shoulder, Clara didn't move. She just sat there, breathing her in, memorizing the weight of her trust. She realized in that quiet that she didn't want to go back to a life where her house was just a place to hide. Maybe she didn't want quiet anymore. Maybe she wanted Emma. But wanting something doesn't mean knowing how to keep it. Because when morning came, Emma was gone. A folded blanket on the couch, a note on the counter. "Thank you for last night. I needed it. Maybe too much. -E." Clara stood there, holding the note like it was proof of something she couldn't name. Through the window, the street looked the same as always. Calm, ordinary, except for one thing. Emma's porch light was still off. And that emptiness, that absence, hurt more than any goodbye.
The following week unfolded like a bruise, slow, quiet, and tender in all the wrong places. Clara didn't see Emma. Not at the mailbox, not in the garden, not walking her dog in the early mornings the way she used to. The street that once felt alive now looked sterile, stripped of its small, beautiful patterns. Her mind kept returning to the note. Maybe too much. Too much of what? Emotion? Closeness? Or the truth they were both too scared to name? At night, Clara left her curtains open, her porch light on, a silent signal, a way of saying, "I'm still here." Days passed, rain came again, gentle and persistent, as if the world was mourning with her. Then, one evening, there was a sound, faint, hesitant, a knock. When Clara opened the door, Emma was there. She looked exhausted, eyes rimmed red, coat clinging to her shoulders, hair damp from the drizzle. But she smiled, soft and real. "Hey, hey," Clara breathed. "You disappeared." "I know. I thought it would be easier to pretend nothing happened, but it wasn't." Clara stepped aside silently. Emma entered, hands fidgeting like she didn't know what to do with them. The air between them felt fragile, like a glass about to crack. I told myself it was just friendship, Emma said finally, voice low. That what I felt was admiration, comfort, anything but this. But the truth is, Clara, she trailed off, shaking her head, you make me want things I'd convinced myself I was done wanting. Like what? Clara asked. Emma looked up, eyes wet but fierce. Like waking up beside someone who makes the world feel less heavy, like laughter that doesn't feel borrowed, like a home that doesn't echo. Clara took a shaky step forward. Emma? No, Emma said quickly, almost pleading. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know because I can't keep pretending that being near you doesn't undo me. Clara closed the distance between them, not suddenly, not dramatically, but like two magnets that had been fighting gravity for too long. You think I haven't been undone too? She whispered. Every night I wait for your light to come on. I write about you without meaning to. I feel you even when you're not here. Emma's breath caught. Then why didn't you? Because I was scared of wanting something I might lose again, of ruining something that's already fragile. Emma gave a small, broken laugh. We're both cowards, aren't we? Maybe, Clara murmured. But we're brave enough to be here now. The silence stretched, but it wasn't empty. It pulsed. Then, slowly, Emma reached up and touched Clara's face, a soft, trembling gesture, as if memorizing something sacred. You're warm, Emma whispered. So are you, Clara replied. Their foreheads touched, and then, finally, they kissed. It wasn't dramatic or rushed. It was the kind of kiss that feels like breathing for the first time after holding your breath for years. Soft, hesitant, but deep with everything they hadn't said. The world outside faded. No rain, no fear, no street between them. Just warmth and truth. When they pulled apart, Emma rested her head against Clara's shoulder. Was that a mistake? She asked quietly. Clara smiled. If it was, I don't care. The days that followed were gentle. Emma started coming over in the mornings, bringing coffee and that awkward, beautiful smile that made Clara's chest ache. They cooked, talked, sometimes sat in silence, the kind of silence that feels full, not lonely. The neighbors began to notice, of course. Two women laughing in the garden, a car parked in the same driveway more nights than not. But neither of them cared. For once, the world outside didn't matter as much as the one they'd built between them. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted everything gold, Clara found Emma sitting on the porch steps, barefoot, holding an old book of poems. Found this in your library, Emma said, smiling. You used to underline every line about love. I still do, Clara said softly. Emma flipped to a page and read aloud, We love the ones who remind us how to begin again. She looked up. You ever think that's what we're doing? Beginning again? Emma asked. Clara nodded. She smiled, eyes glistening. No, I think we're just finally continuing what should have started long ago. You always know the right thing to say, Emma said. No, I just finally stopped being afraid to say it. Later that night, as they sat together under the soft hum of the streetlight, Emma whispered, You know what's funny? I used to think love was something you fall into, but this? Clara turned to her. This feels different? Emma smiled. Yeah. This feels like walking home. And in that quiet moment, the one without words, without grand gestures, everything fell into place. Two women, two houses, one story that had been waiting to be lived. The distance that once divided them was gone. All that remained was love. Quiet, imperfect, real. The next morning, the neighbors saw something new. Two mugs on one porch, steam curling in the cool air. And for once, both porch lights were on.